Metal Detectors, located in sunny Tampa, Florida, where we sell nothing but fun and adventures, treasure hunting gear, and anything you can imagine for metal detecting. Give us a call, 813-237-1939. Happy hunting and dig deeper.
Live from sunny Florida, it's Treasure Talk.
Welcome, friends. Well, I guess, Jeff, we're live, so we're going to get started. How about it?
We are.
Okay, friends, today's show is brought to you by your friends at Myers Metal Detectors, where we sell fun and adventure. And the views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by the Treasure Talk guest and members belong solely to the guest and member only, and not necessarily to Myers Metal Detectors, Phil Myers, Jocelyn Myers, or Jeff Monin. And of course, the purpose of Treasure Talk is to promote the hobby of metal detecting and treasure hunting and to educate our members in a fun and informative manner. And today we've got an exciting guest, an exciting show, and I'll let Jeff talk about it.
Well, everybody, he's been here before and he will be back again, and you'll have him to look forward to again on a uncensored, so to speak, Treasure Tales in November. That ought to be a good one, but everybody loves Captain Carl Fizzmer. He is a world-renowned treasure hunter and treasure salver, and he has been busy being the captain and getting some stuff lined up. And so he's here to talk to us tonight and tell us what's been going on, what he's been doing, and what he's got coming up. So we're just going to bring him on right now. And here is Captain Fizz. Let me find him. There he is. There you go. Hey, Cap.
There he is.
There you go.
Welcome. And he's in his captain's chair. Welcome, Captain Fizz.
Right.
Thanks very much, Phil and Jeff. It's good to be with you guys. Been a while.
Yes, it has been, but it looks like things are starting to happen again. So hopefully we'll get to have some in-person contact soon.
Sure, yeah, that'd be great. The summer weather here hasn't been so hot. You know, I've been working on the 1715 fleet, but unfortunately, it's the worst year for weather I've ever seen. And John Brandon, who is my boss over there in Fort Pierce, John very well could be the best treasure hunter in the world today. I mean, I really admire him, and I'm very jealous of everything he's done. This is his 50th 50 years on the 1715 fleet. And believe me, he's brought in a lot more than anybody else over there. And yes, I'm trying to get some brownie points just in case he's listening. But anyway, the weather's been real bad. We haven't done well at all so far, but we're going to give it all we got for next month, and that'll be pretty much the end of the season.
So you just worked the summer months on those wreck sites?
Yeah, it's a lot better that way, and it's not like in the winter time there are a few good days. It's not worth keeping your boat in the water and paying for the marina to only usually get nothing but a few days at best. So yeah, it's a summer seasonal salvage effort.
And then the cost of fuel and everything too. So,
well, you better believe it.
Everything else,
it's going up faster than I've ever seen it go up. I don't want to get into any of that kind of stuff because I'm now in Facebook jail, and for you Facebook friends that's tuned in tonight, I'll be back on in 2 days.
Well, that's something we've made a hard and fast rule of. We don't discuss is religion and politics on here because that's fine with everybody fired up.
Yeah, fine with me. No point in me getting us all in jail.
Absolutely. So
I can do fine on my own.
Yeah. Before we get started on the questions, because we've had some of them emailed to us already, and some are coming through now on YouTube and Facebook. Why don't you tell us what salvage company are you working for or working with? on the 1715 plate fleet?
Well, two different companies. My own, which is a Spanish main treasure company.
Okay.
I have a 26-foot Stapleton with a blower, and the smaller boats are designed to get in close to the beach. And believe me, with this bad weather, we can't get in too close. If your bow anchor would happen to slip, well, your boat would be up on the beach, and then that would be a big mess. And recently, a company called Nova Ray has joined the 1715 fleet, and they have a 67-foot vessel with blowers. And I've been their hit checker on that boat this year.
Oh.
So working two boats keeps me kind of busy while I'm over there.
All right. Okay, so well, we'll get started in the questions, and the first one is, how long have you been a treasure hunter?
I guess just 52 years. Wow, I had to think about it, and I'm only 40 years old, so I don't know how that happened.
Well, the math works on that.
Yes,
Your mother was reading treasure hunting books while you were gestating.
52 years, but the first 6 were not very productive. It was a learning experience. I used to be on the city of Sarasota, Florida fire department, and there were 6 of us out in the boat. We were going to be practicing our rescue and recovery work, and we accidentally anchored over a shipwreck, and I was just so fascinated, I guess is the word. It was a small mini freighter in 2 pieces. I don't know, I would say probably might be World War II vintage. I'm just not sure, but anyhow, we all burned, 6 of us burned 2 scuba tanks each. It was full of copper tubing, and we were in there, like bending it and breaking it off, and taking it up to the boat. I had 6 guys, 2 scuba tanks. That means about at least 3 hours of 6 guys bending off this copper tubing, and I took it to the scrap yard the next day, and I think we made like $8.11 or something. But that showed me that we could actually make money from a shipwreck. Now, the copper is toxic to the marine environment. If you've got a fish tank at home, throw a piece of copper in there and see what happens to your fish. So we were actually, unbeknownst, cleaning up the ocean, making the environment better. The iron and steel and things like that are not too bad, because eventually iron will just oxidize totally away after so many centuries. Same way for silver. Silver is toxic to the marine environment. I've got some coins that used to be, this is an 8 real I've got on my neck right here. And it's in decent condition because it was in a big clump of coins. But a lot of the pieces we picked up are like tiny razor blades. And that's the main argument. These wrecks ought to be salvaged now rather than just sit there and completely rot away.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. For sure. So as I go down my list here, who are some of the people that you've worked with in the past treasure hunting?
Well, of course, Mel Fisher. I worked with Mel for 12 years. And I'm just, Mel's passed away. He's been gone quite a while now. But if it wasn't for the things Mel Fisher did and all the problems and all the headaches he went through, we wouldn't be doing anything today. Mel was in federal court 113 times. And the reason for that is you have to go to state court before you can go to federal court. But you're automatically found guilty in state court. It doesn't matter what you say or what you did or what the law is. The state hates you and you're guilty. If God came down out of heaven and testified on your behalf, they'd throw him in the slammer for lying in court. So 112, 113 times. When he got into the federal courts, they were more fair, and Mel won 112 straight, including the Supreme Court. And that ruling today is one of the few things that allows myself and a couple of hundred other guys to go out and treasure hunt. If it wasn't for Mel, the land metal detectors, I know a lot of those guys. And you know as well as I do, every day there's more acres of property being put off limits, posted, no trespassing, keep your butt out of here. And eventually there ain't going to be no place to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
All righty. So what's the most valuable item you've recovered yourself?
Well, I found one gold coin that that brought $44,000, and that was years ago. On today's market, those particular coins are going for 100,000 and up. But the favorite thing, my favorite piece, I like artifact-wise, our religious artifacts. I found a reliquary, which is a small container, oval-shaped, about bigger than a big egg. And the reliquary is a container for a relic, something that's been handed down by a saint or a martyr, like from Roman times 2,000 years ago. I found an intact reliquary with 2 hand-carved rosewood rosaries, and the crosses were inlaid with 22-karat gold. But right at the X where the crosses cross, each one of them had 2 little slivers of wood inlaid in them, and those were from the cross of a saint or a martyr from Roman times. Unfortunately, I don't know which one. I know there were 2 priests on board the ship. Obviously, it belonged to one of them, but all I can find out through the research is what their names were. Whatever saint or martyr the crosswood came from is lost in history.
Interesting.
Well, St. Peter, when they crucified St. Peter, he said, I don't deserve to die like Christ. You can crucify me upside down. And they did. And after St. Peter was dead, they gave the cross to the crowd of people there who cut it all up and distributed it. I'm not saying what I got from St. Peter, but it's from one of them, like back in those days.
Interesting. Very interesting. Did you have some questions on YouTube there?
Nothing yet.
Okay, cool. Let me keep going down my list then. Oh, I wanted to ask you about this. And you don't mind if I read something out of your book, do you, Carl?
Go right ahead. And
this is out of Man Overboard.
Man Overboard.
Yes. The term treasure diver is someone who seeks to find what's been lost by history, by hurricanes, or other forces, which rendered the fate beneath the sea. The most serious treasure diver is hopeful to land a job working for a legitimate salvage company. So is that what you're doing now? You're landing a job?
I don't know how legitimate it is. Let's just say when I started, I swear to you, I'm the luckiest person you'll ever meet. I did 6 years on my own, just making one mistake after the next. And then I forced myself on Art McKee. Art McKee was the father of modern day treasure hunting. And I had worked with Art, but unfortunately only about 6 months in the last 6 months of his life, and he passed away. And I didn't know what I was going to do after that, but a man named D.L. Cheney asked me to work on his boat. Now, he was working with Jack Haskins, and those two guys are two of the best our business has ever had. I make references to Jack Haskins a lot because I worked with Jack for 32 years, the last 32 years of Jack's life. He was responsible for more Spanish treasure recovery than anybody. He made numerous trips to the Archive of the Indies in Seville, Spain, and he could translate all the archaic documents. And he turned the it's like if he didn't jump in the water and find it for you, he gave you the documents to tell you where to go look. All the big name wrecks. And when D.L. Cheney asked me to work on their boat, Jack Haskins didn't like me. He said, don't train them. Don't educate them. You're only training the competition. And he wouldn't even speak to me. But then, unfortunately, a year later, D.L. Cheney passed away, and I ended up running his boat for the next 18 years. Fortunately, Jack Haskins called me up and said he didn't have a lease to work on the 1715 fleet. I said, Jack, you don't need one. You stay on the boat, stay on the research vessel Wasp with us. And he said, well, what do you want me to do? And I said, what do I want you to? You're Jack Haskins. You tell me what to do. And then that was in 1983. And we found more treasure in any year than we've ever found just because Jack was working with us. When division time came, I had 1,200 coins from the fleet, and I have a picture of Jack at my kitchen table in front of those 1,200 coins. And then I said, well, here, Jack, what do you get in division? He kept a little notebook and he got it out and he said, well, I get 175 eights and fours and 100 of the small pieces, a couple of silver cups. And he kept track of his own stuff. And I said, well, take it. And he pulled it out of the pot. He was the first guy in there. And I said, are you happy with that? And he said, heck yes. And then I pushed another big handful over into his pile off the table. And I said, we couldn't have possibly have done that without you. You're the main guy in the business, and you deserve a lot more than what you got. And he looked at me and he said, you're one of the only people that's never taken advantage of me. And from that day on, Jack and I worked together. He used to call me up then. He'd say, Fizz, I got information on a payroll ship down in the lower Keys. Let's go looking for it. Jack Haskins calling me. And it's, I swear, the 32 years with Jack is the only reason I know what I know. When you work with the best, you can become the best. Jack passed away, and I didn't know much about him. You know, we were together. We got drunk several times. We had a lot of fun without treasure hunting, and but I didn't know much about it. So he left me everything he had. His lawyer got a hold of me and said, Fizz, you get his house, his car, 2 cats, and 200 and some thousand pages of archival research. And as you may know, the King of Spain stopped no more treasure hunters in the archives in Seville. There's the king realized he'd been giving away billions of dollars worth of information, and he was. Right. So I have the world's largest private collection of research. I've already sold some of the wrecks out of it just the way Jack did. But, you know, if you need research, I'm about the only game in town.
Interesting. Really
I mean,
interesting.
that was long, but I hope you got something out of it.
For sure. Well, I got a question here. This came through on Facebook, and it's what's the captain's favorite rum?
What I drink the most of is Bacardi. That's because it's good and it's not very expensive. But, you know, every time I do a trade show and people will say, well, what can I bring? They'll come and see me at the trade shows. I do a lot of them. And I just say, bring rum. And darn, if every show I get 2 or 3 bottles of rum, and then people buy the expensive stuff, like $40 a bottle. And so that's why I keep saying bring rum, but I drink mostly Bacardi.
Okay. So what trade
I
shows
can
are
tell you
you?
right now, Captain, I'm not bringing $40 a bottle of rum to Sebastian.
Well, how about $10 a bottle?
That'll work.
Yeah, well, tell you the truth, the cheap stuff has got a little bit bigger bite. You know, it's the although I'm not speaking as an expert, but I have drank a lot of the cheap stuff.
So
Well, we do have a question off of YouTube from Tom Shively. Is the state of Florida issuing new treasure diving permits? And if they are, what are the requirements to get one?
Yeah. Hi, Tom. How you doing? I know Tom. He's a good guy, friend of mine. The state of Florida, now I stay away from them as much as I can. But here's what I've been told, and here's what I believe is the deal. The state, I've been told, has not issued a salvage permit in something like 22 years. What they do is they give you the 3-step permits. Step number 1, they'll let you hunt for a wreck, but you have to tell them, you need research from me, I guess. You have to tell them what ship you're looking for. And if you find anything else, they get it. Step number 2, if you find what you think might be your wreck, step number 2, you get permission to identify that wreck. Then step number 3, if that is the wreck you're looking for, step number 3, you get to salvage the wreck. But they've never let anybody that I know of go into step 3. So if there's somebody listening out there that actually completed all 3 of those phases required by the state, I'd like to know about it. But I don't believe they've ever issued one myself.
So, Captain Fizz, would it be smarter for the person then to get with you or your company, one of your company friends, to do some salvage diving, working under somebody else?
I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you some free advice, and if you guys want to go treasure hunting, and you know, money's always a problem, and if you're working underneath any of the bureaucrats or politicians, you're going to be spending a lot of money you don't really need to spend. Here's my advice. The best thing I can tell you about any shipwreck, it's outside state waters. If you want to start hunting wrecks, get outside the 3-mile limit on the Atlantic side and get out further than 9.5 miles in the Gulf of Mexico. Out there, we're back to admiralty law. Admiralty law, the old law of the sea. It's been, my doctor told me it's in ancient Jewish scripture. I said, get me a copy of that. Basically, what admiralty law is, if your boat sinks, you still own your boat, that's yours. And you try to save it, you try to salvage, you try to get anything off of it. But when you give up, when you say, okay, that's too too much for me. I quit. I've had enough. Then somebody like me can step up and say, I'd like admiralty law on that. Meaning I would own the wreck as long as I made honest efforts to salvage it. That admiralty is good. But if I didn't, well, then somebody else could legally take a shot at it.
Right.
Well, what we said we weren't going to talk about, some people didn't like admiralty law, so they got it dumped.
Mm. But now,
long story.
Right. Now, your companies that are doing the 1715 fleet, you already have leases through the state.
Yes, that's correct. And that's because of Mel Fisher.
Right.
You know, like Mel and all of his legal problems, and that's the only thing we got going for us now. You know, they down in Key West, they I don't know what they did, but they made them stop using the prop wash, the blowers that move sand. And down there, there's sand everywhere, and the water's deeper and everything else. Just another problem, another headache for the legal people that are working. There's just so much jealousy. Matter of fact, you want to hear one of Jack Haskin's quotes? Jack had several what we called Haskinisms. And Jack used to say, once in a while, if you're lucky, you can vote a politician out of office. But the bureaucrats are forever, like herpes.
Yes, I think that's in this book of yours.
You better believe it is.
It's in there. And about what we're talking, I'm going to give you another line out of your book. The individual who attempts to find treasure on their own will quickly find the cost of attempting such a feat is a financial and personal hardship. So they would have to actually find a company to work under if they wanted to treasure hunt out in the water right now.
Yeah, that's correct. It's available. I don't know what you have to go through, because I've had my leases there since 1980. But here's a tip. I'll tell you how to make a small fortune in the treasure hunting business. You start out with a large fortune.
A large one, yes.
That's the truth.
Yes.
Even for us that just work on the beach.
Well, the beach is still legal. You know, they're trying to get that stopped too, but it is legal.
Yes.
I know.
We have someone who found, I think, 9 gold coins on the beach not too long ago. But I think they found it in the winter months, not after a hurricane.
Those coins are there, and if you get any kind of break in surf and any of that sand moves, you don't know how deep a lot of that stuff is. And today's metal detectors, you remember when what hurricane was that went through here a few years ago? There's a wreck down off Naples, Florida. I've just been waiting for a hurricane to come through and move a lot of that sand. Well, it went through there. I think it was Irma and or Norma, one of those two names. Anyway, and 2 days after it came up here to Tampa, and then it went across the state through Vero Beach. Now, the metal detector club there at Vero was out on the beach, and I saw a few of those guys, and they threw a handful of coins on the table, a few really nice 8 real, chunky, good condition pieces. And I said, you got those on the beach or at Vero Beach? He said, yeah. I said, how deep were they? And he said, well, I got there and I went to turn my machine on and I looked at the ground. I said, hey, look at that. He picked up 9 coins before he even turned the machine on.
It happened. Unfortunately, they got so much sand dumped on the beaches now.
Yes.
With the replenishment project they like. That
they love doing that.
7 feet of sand off.
But Naples, Bradley Williamson and myself went down to Naples 2 days after the storm passed, and we got out on the city of Naples was full of trees and trash. The fire department down there was trying to clean things up, but we got through. Now we're metal detecting on the beach, but I got 11 cents and a couple of pop tops. A good day. And there were surveyors working on the beach there. And one of the surveyors said, "How much do those metal detectors cost?" He was interested. I talked to him for a while and I said, "Well, we were hoping that some of the sand would be gone here." And he said, "Just the opposite. They were checking it." He said, "There's more sand here now than there was last week." So that Hurricane Irma let me down, but it helped the boys in Vero.
Right. And we moved sand over there and brought it in over here. All right. Well, let me keep going on my list. This came from Mike Mayo on Facebook, and he's asking, how many shipwrecks have you worked, Carl?
Well, I probably only worked about, I'm going to guess 40 or so, but I've been on maybe about 300 because when D.L. Cheney and Jack, we used to go looking for wrecks, and I'd move real quick just to get my gear on first, because as soon as D.L. Cheney got in the water and he realized that ain't no treasure wreck, he'd make us leave. But there were souvenirs like, bronze spikes and pins and the rudder gudgeons and stuff, like all them beautiful, wonderful things you decorate your house with. So I used to get down the line real quick. I'm throwing stuff in the bag. But once D.L. Cheney saw this ain't gonna, there's no money here, let's leave. And that's why I'm pretty sure I could probably tell you in one tank of air if we're going to stay here and pick on this or not. Because you've got a lot of cash outlay with the boat, and with the insurance is you've got to be sitting down when you get an insurance quote.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's all too expensive, which is why we found all those wrecks, but we only worked and we didn't even make money on all of them. It just once in a while you hit the right one, and that's where you do good. I've had great days, but I've had a lot worse days.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Rodney Scott is asking, how do you get into the treasure hunting as a career?
Wow. Well, what I did, being on the fire department when my interest was sparked, in fact, I did that for 6 years while I was on the fire department, and you work 24-hour shifts and then you're off for 48 hours. So if you trade a shift with another fireman working another shift, you work 2 straight days, then you get 5 days off. And that's what I did to have the time for it. Plus, I paid all my own expenses, and nobody, few people wanted to help once in a while, but I didn't really start doing good till I met Art McKee and started working under his guidance.
Right.
In fact, Art McKee opened up the very first Sunken Treasure Museum in the United States. It's in Plantation Key. It's still there, the building, but it's a Montessori school these days. Art was lucky. He worked with Dr. Mendel Peterson, who was the curator of shipwrecks in the Smithsonian in Washington. And that was back when the political people would actually work with you in the hopes of something good happening. Mm-hmm. Dr. Mendel Peterson's written a couple of the good books on treasure. In fact, the #1 book where I learned more than anything else was called The Funnel of Gold by Dr. Mendel Peterson. he was a friend of mine, and he passed away some years back. But that's probably all the knowledge. There were things in there I'd never even heard of. Anyway, I would recommend that. Or to get started, I got started right here in Florida, Sarasota. I was out in the Gulf of Mexico on all my days off. I was building electronic things that were cheap. I thinking they would help me. I couldn't afford a metal detector, but I did that for 6 years, and then I hooked up with Art McKee. He passed away. Then D.L. Cheney and Jack Haskins, which was the best day of my life, and I stayed with Jack for the last 32 years of his life.
Interesting.
Okay, we got a question off of YouTube from Dan Russo. He wants to know if you had any luck at the 3-anchor wreck in the Bahamas.
Yeah, I've worked some of them. We did pretty good on that. It's the Freeport Wreck, which the name of that is the Remedios, and it sank in 1626. I did good on that. There's a book originally, the guys who worked on it, Jack Slack, and there's a book called Finders Losers, and it's about that particular wreck. A lot of information in there. We did a lot of mag work in the Bahamas, and that's where we found a lot of wrecks. D.L. Cheney, Jack Haskins, and myself. In fact, there's a picture from 1981. It's on my Facebook page. My daughter put it up there. I'm sitting on the deck of the Wasp with a whole bunch of conglomerates laying on the gunnel, and that's where we were. We were finding, we could find 8 or 10 wrecks in a day and check them out rapidly. So I'm guessing I've been on maybe about 300 of them. I didn't really count, but it was a lot. And that's another thing. People ask me how many dives I've got. Well, there again, I don't know. I never kept a log or counted. So it's a guess. I'd say somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000.
Interesting. Well, we had also Facebook. Michelle was asking, have you had to deal with sharks? And that was one of our other questions about encounters with dangerous predators.
Those dangerous predators, yeah. One guy asked me, what's the most dangerous thing I ever faced? And I told him Congress.
That goes without saying.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. I've probably seen sharks almost every dive I've ever done. A shark he's at the peak of his evolution. That I believe that's as good as they're going to get. And when they get hungry, they eat. So they have a lot of spare time. I think they're curious that they come around. Once I'm hand fanning a hole, and a small shark about 5 feet swam right under my armpit and stuck his head in the hole I was digging. A lot of the smaller fish run in there, and you expose nutrients, and the fish eat it. But that's the only time I ever had a shark actually bump into me and stick his head in the hole. In Panama, Duke Long and I were metal detecting close together. We were in 36 feet of water, and all of a sudden he started shaking me, and I turned around like, what's the matter? And he pointed up, and right over top of us was like 10 big hammerhead sharks, and they were just sitting there. I looked at them for a minute or two. I didn't know if I should try to go on back to the boat, but they were as big around as they were long. Biggest sharks I've ever seen, obviously well fed. I said, well, those guys ain't hungry, so I don't think they're going to bother with us. And they didn't. But I've seen films of hammerhead sharks swimming down other sharks and eating them.
Interesting.
Yep.
So I've never had any of them try to bite me that I know of.
Now, in your book, you talked about sea snakes and also that you petted a barracuda. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was on Silver Shoals Reef, the wreck of the Conception. That's where this coin came from. I worked at 35 years ago, and I don't know how that barracuda. We had 3 working boats. How he knew which one I was in every morning, I don't know. But as soon as I'd hit the water, and there again, barracuda are as good as they're going to get. I've sit out on Alligator Reef getting ready to in the Keys, and barracuda have jumped right over my 21-foot boat because they know there's a little school of smaller fish over here in the shaded area. And they get on the other side of the boat. They start swimming in a circle, and just at the right minute, they'll jump right over my boat and splash and eat. That barracuda on Silver Shoals Reef, by the way, I spent 2 months there, never heard a phone ring. Just something to think about that. Anyway, that barracuda went with me every day. He watched me and I'm hand fanning holes, I'm metal detecting, and somehow I just felt like we were buddies. And he's just sitting right there. He sees my hand coming at him. He didn't move. And I just started stroking him down the side. It seemed to me he liked it.
Well, he was all rummed up. He liked the taste of rum.
Maybe that was it. But I have a picture of him and I somewhere. I posted it on Facebook a couple of times.
Yeah, we ought to get that posted on the page too.
Interesting. Yes, for sure. And then another question off of Facebook, Jocelyn handed me, Jerry Burball is asking, what's Fizz's favorite expedition?
Well, it's got to be the Silver Shoals Reef. I've worked in a lot of wonderful places, and I mean, Central, South America, and but I've got to say, Silver Shoals Reef. It's about 40 square miles. The closest point of land is Puerto Plata, Dominican Republic, and it's 75 miles offshore. And that's where the Conception is. I'm going back there maybe in January.
And how deep is the water there that you're diving?
Well, the reef heads, most of the reef heads are awash at low tide. Very dangerous place. In fact, the Spanish called it the abrojos, meaning keep your eyes open. The Conception lost its rudder, lost its mast, lost their anchors. They were using bronze cannons as anchors, but they didn't stop them. And they pinballed into, just like a pinball machine, got inside that reef and came to rest. But the deepest is 60 feet deep. So a lot of the coins in the treasure are at 60 feet. But the good news is all up and down the reef heads, you metal detect anywhere. And we were picking coins out of there by the thousands. Also, I'm getting a hit on the bottom. It looked like mud. I could stick my hand in it, and I reached down in there. I found the coin and brought it out, and it's in the color is blue, and that was a trench of indigo. My hand was blue when I brought it out of that trench. Indigo is a blue dye that was extremely valuable because every army in Europe wanted blue uniforms, and that's how they made them. So the Spanish not only made money on silver and gold, bronze and copper was a good market, and indigo for dye.
Interesting.
Jerry, I had breakfast with Jerry 2 days ago. I guess he figured since I bought him breakfast, he better ask a question. Just kidding, dude.
Well, I think I've seen him on Facebook, and I guess he goes out and dives with you guys then, right?
Let me tell you something. I've seen lots of divers, and I'm not saying this to butter him up, but if anybody's got the potential to shoot to the top of this, it's that young man.
Absolutely. Well, cool.
I mean, he knows his metal detectors. He knows what's good, what's not. He knows how to use them. Actually, when we went out the last time, I just sat on the boat and let him do all the work.
Nice. How deep water are you at over the 1715 fleet?
Well, I think the shallowest I've done much is about 5 feet, and the deepest I've worked over there has been maybe 25.
Are the divers using hookahs or are they going on tanks?
Well, my favorite, if we're exploring, I'd wear a tank. But once we find a place we want to be, I like to stick at least 2 anchors out on the boat, fore and aft, to basically hold you in the same place. And my hookah has two 100-foot sections. So one guy can go off one side of the boat, metal detecting, another guy off the other side, and you're covering 2/3 of a football field. To do that right with a metal detector, yeah, it's going to take you days to do all that area.
Absolutely.
And it's on 50 cents worth of gas. You don't have to carry tanks out of the truck to the dive shop when you get in.
Right.
I used to have that job, and believe me, I didn't like it.
No, it's heavy, hard work. Well, it looks like Jeff has got the banner running. So you ready to do that, Jeff?
Yes, we are. We have a giveaway tonight. The captain was gracious enough to give us. He's got it, and he's going to sign it for you. One of his books, Uncharted Waters, a great book. It's definitely one that you'll want to add to your collection. I mean, it's just, if you think these stories are great, wait till you get into his books, and you need to buy them all. And I think Phil probably has some of them in the shop too. If he doesn't, he can certainly get it for you.
Yes, absolutely.
But, okay, this is how we do it. And you all registered, and we had well over 100 register on YouTube and on Facebook, and we have one winner. So what you have is you'll see on the ticker going down on the bottom of the screen our phone numbers. You have to be tuned in to win. And once your name is called, you'll have 3 minutes to text or Facebook Messenger, either Phil or myself, with your name and that you're here. Then what you must do is you must email to treasuretalkshow@gmail.com all your information, name, address, phone number, yada, yada, yada. That way I can get it to Carl and he can sign the book to you and get it off to you. So
yeah, I'll mail it tomorrow.
Okay. So here we go. So listen up and get your fingers ready. Okay. Dan Urusso, if you are watching, which I think you are, you won Uncharted Waters. So text or Facebook Messenger, either one of the numbers within 3 minutes with your name, and you'll have a book coming your way.
Awesome.
If you guys can email me the name and address, I'll mail it tomorrow.
Yep, I'll get that to you tonight.
So, Carl, I guess it's in Panama there that you were talking about the sea snakes. Now,
yes.
So those are the most poisonous snake in the world?
That's right. We called the Miami hospital about getting the antivenom, and they said, "Where are you going to be working?" And I said, "Well, in Panama." And they said, "If you get bit in the water, you're not going to live to get to any hospital." So we didn't have any antivenom. But I hear again, there's over 300 kinds of sea snakes. I didn't know that until I studied up on them. And the ones that were during mating season, of course, it had to be mating season. They said they're only aggressive during mating season. So, of course, it's got to be when we get there.
Right.
They were 2 to 3 feet long, black, with a yellow stripe down each side. Pretty, it looked like a racing stripe down each side. And fortunately, as the waves were picking the boat up and up, that up and down motion, the snakes would open up. There'd be a hole. They were all over the surface. And once we were on the up position, I'd jump through that hole in between hundreds of snakes. And then on the bottom, there was another different breed of sea snake with them triangle heads. And here again, I know you're not going to believe it. If somebody told me this, I wouldn't believe it. Two of them things followed me out the whole time I'm on the bottom. And I don't know how they knew which boat I was in, and they looked like them same two snakes every day followed me around. I didn't pet them.
Carl, we got a question from YouTube from Mermaid Treasure Hunter. She wants to know where she can go and buy all your books.
Amazon has them, all three of them. And if you do, or you can write to me, but if you do buy from Amazon, send me a self-addressed stamped envelope and I'll mail you some of the peel and stick bookmarks autographed. That way you can stick the. I learned that from Arthur C. Clarke.
Well, you can't beat that with a big stick, Mermaid Treasure Hunter. So, you just send us an email. We'll get it to Carl, and you'll get some stickers, autograph stickers.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. Arthur C. Clarke, Sir Arthur C. Clarke. I was affiliated with him for 16 years. I actually filmed his last scuba dive. He's the one that came up with the tank in Huntsville, Alabama to train the astronauts. There's a fabulous man. The orbit that the satellites travel in is named the Clark Belt. He's the one that invented satellite communication. What a guy. Plus, he was a treasure hunter.
Yeah. Well, looks like Dan Russo is not here any longer, so it's time for another name.
Yeah,
and so, sure. Jerry Agans, if you are watching, you got 3 minutes to text or Facebook Messenger Phil or myself to claim your book.
And Carl, where is the farthest away from the U.S. you have treasure hunted?
Sri Lanka was one. And I've treasure hunted in Bali, Indonesia, but I tried to measure it is that as far away as you can get? Because once you get there, if you keep going, then you're on your way back. Sri Lanka it's a country right next to India in the Indian Ocean.
Right. So I guess that would be the furthest away. Did you find much there?
Well, actually, that's where the Taj Mahal treasure came from. Sir Arthur C. Clarke, it already had a lot of it salvaged, but I did dive with him, and we brought some stuff up. And then we tried to get permission, but even Arthur Clarke couldn't get the permission. The people, I guess, were all in arms. They're thinking that these guys are going to come over here and steal the treasure. We even offered to do it, to give them everything if we could just have the filming rights, because we do a filming with Arthur Clarke in it. Well, Buzz Aldrin, second man on the moon, called us up and said, "You guys going over and dive with Arthur?" We said, "Yes, sir, but we are." He said, "Can I go with you?" That would have made a heck of a movie.
Oh, it would have. Absolutely.
Yeah. Clarke was friends with every astronaut and cosmonaut.
Awesome. Absolutely. So did we have a winner yet, Jeff?
Nope. He's got 1 minute left.
1 minute left. Okay.
Yep. Then I've got the other name waiting.
So, Captain, have you done much land or beach metal detecting?
I've done. I used to go out on the beach on bad weather days if we didn't take the boat out. I have found some coins on the beach, but not a whole lot. But I did run into a guy an old man. I'm old now, but I wasn't old back when I got started. The guy come up and asked me how I was doing with the metal detector. I had an 8 real in my hand, and I showed it to him, and he looked at it and look. Now this was a long time ago, and he said, "Is that worth any money?" And at the time, I think I could sell them for about $200. But Mel Fisher at the time, who got half of everything I picked up, he was selling them for like $500 and $600, even though they were coins I found. And that's when I made up my mind. I'd like to get to, where I could make as much as Mel was making on them. And so I started writing articles. I got on the cover of a lot of magazines and I do a lot of shows. But the guy looked at it and I said, about $200. And he said, I can't believe it. And I said, well, they are. That's a Spanish coin, Spanish 8 real, piece of 8. And he said, I must have thrown back a couple $100,000. He said, I'm walking this beach for 20 years and I've been skipping them back in the water and they make great skippers. And I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to say. I should have said, where exactly did you throw those coins in?
Absolutely. So you had mentioned that you do shows or trade shows now. Which ones do you do?
Well, I do all of the pirate shows, and then I do a lot of private shows for people. There's a men's club down on Siesta Key in Sarasota. I've talked there, and I'll go to parties and set up. I used to do all the dive shows too, but I don't mind telling you, this virus thing is just busted us because I have very few appearances since this virus thing started. And don't get me going on that because you won't like me no more.
Well, the metal detecting clubs have been. Go ahead, Jeff.
We've got the winner.
Awesome. Perfect.
I'll take care of it and send it to you, Carl, tonight, and you can get his book out tomorrow.
I sure will.
You are a man of honor.
Yeah, I'll probably give you a ring tomorrow, Carl, because our metal detecting club started back up. We got a nice professional location. The Hillsborough County shut us down, wouldn't let us meet.
Of course they did.
So we tried a few other places and they didn't work, but now we have a good professional place where we can actually hear each other when the speaker's there. We can hear the speaker. So we want to, of course, get you in the lineup, maybe be one of our first professional speakers back. So we'll send you the information on that. I'll probably try to give you a call tomorrow.
Yeah, that's be fine.
Yeah, because it would be nice because most of our members have had their shots and everybody's still doing the social distance thing just to be careful, because we're all older now and we want to be safe.
I've had 3.
Oh,
rub
it in,
no
Jeff.
problem. Yeah,
I've had 3. Rub
it in, man. Rub it in. Well, anyway, it's getting close to that time, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. It's getting there.
Okay. Well, I wanted to be the first one to thank you, Captain Carl. It's always fun chatting with you, and hopefully we'll get to see you in person here real soon. And thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Jocelyn, for handing me the questions. And thank you to all of our members. It looks like we've got almost 5,000 on Facebook, and then probably a couple thousand on YouTube. So
it's getting there. It's getting there.
I'll be back on Facebook in 2 days, I think.
Yeah, but you won't be there long.
No, I won't. You can count on it.
Oh, I know they do strange things.
You and President Trump. Yeah. Funny. So thank you for being on here.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Carl, we want to thank you so much, and I will see you definitely in November in Sebastian for dinner and some more stories. And we're going to have a good old time. And we're going to be down there for a week hunting the Treasure Coast. So you're welcome to hunt with us if you would like to. And
I just might. Good.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Terry Shannon's going to be there, and we're going to go out and hunt. And and carry on and all that kind of good stuff. So
Yeah, you be sure and give me at least a week's notice.
oh yeah.
Yeah, I'll do it.
I'm good at bugging people about coming on the show, and then with keeping them up to date on stuff. So we'll be good. We'll be golden. Now next week, y'all need to be here, because if you've ever watched, and Carl's one that can tell you how important this is research. Now we're having a guest next Monday night. Carrie Balbarona is the queen of research, to help you and tell you how you go about it and why you go about certain things to get research, to get permissions to metal detect. Now this is one you don't want to miss, and that is one of the most important things. You can be as talented as you want to with a metal detector, but if you ain't got no place to hunt, it ain't gonna do you no good. So she's going to tell us exactly how you go about doing the research to get the permissions to hunt. So next week, that'll be here. Captain Fizz, thanks, man. I appreciate you, and looking forward to being with you in a little while.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Thanks again, guys.
Okay, dig deeper, everybody.
Dig deeper. We'll see y'all.